Welcome, class, to the overview of the course lecture. We're going to be talking about the syllabus in this lecture, so you might want to print it or have it available to look at periodically throughout the lecture. At the top of the syllabus, you can see my contact information, my office number. I respond very quickly to email, probably more than phone calls. So my email is nhalbrenner@mercy.edu. I don't have scheduled office hours, but I'll be happy to meet with you at a mutually agreeable time. Just email me. We can phone call, we can Skype, or we can meet in person. This is a totally online class. If you're having technical difficulties, there's really going to break out into two different kinds of difficulties. If you're having difficulties with Blackboard, you can email mercyonline@mercy.edu. But if you're having computer trouble, maybe you think your browser's not suited to the course activities, for example, you can call the phone number shown here or email the help desk. There's a lot of help, and they're generally pretty good about getting back to you and helping. So that's what you do if you run into technical difficulties. I will also say it's a good idea to plan not to submit everything at the last minute, because let's say you have an assignment that's due at midnight and you're submitting at 11:55 and your computer crashes. That's not going to be good. So try not to push everything until the very last minute. It's important to understand some of the policies in the class. So let's talk about makeup policy for assignments. So first of all, it goes without saying that you should probably try to get everything in on time. However, with a couple of exceptions, you may submit assignments late, up to a week late, with a 10% point penalty. And this is regardless of the reason. So for example, if an assignment is due on April 4th and you get it in anytime up until April 11th, then I'll accept it. If you normally would have gotten 15 points for full credit, if it was worth 15 points, then I have to take a point and a half off. So you would get 13 and a half points. So try to get your assignments in on time. There are two assignments for which I cannot accept late because of when they occur in the course, and that's the final examination, which is the last day of the semester, May 12th, and the extra credit vocabulary project are not accepted late, as well as any discussion posts. Students ask me why I won't accept discussion posts late. So think about it this way. Discussion posts take the place of classroom discussion in an online course. And if you are doing posting late, it's as if you're constantly talking in an empty classroom when the students have left. There's nobody there to hear it. And so you're not really part of the discussion. So no late discussion posts and final exam and extra credit vocabulary project not accepted late. Everything else accepted up to a week late. Please submit all your papers using Microsoft Word. I will not accept PDF, Adobe Acrobat, or other formats. They're just too hard for me to open and give you feedback. There are lots of ways to get a paper into Word if you don't have Word. So you can Google that and find out about that. All assignments must follow the American Psychological Association format. I provided a link on the home page that's shown here, and you can also order a book to find out about APA style. I believe in second chances, so all assignments can be submitted, resubmitted that is, up to 1 week after they are graded. So let's say again an assignment is due on April 4th, and you get it in, and I give you feedback on April 7th. Then you have until April 14th to revise and resubmit the assignment, and I'll take the higher grade for your course average. However, no assignments, including resubmits, may be submitted after May 12th. You can see the student learning outcomes for this course. You can read over those. These are things you should be able to do by the end of the course. Here's our required textbook, Macmillan, Classroom Assessment, Principles and Practice for Effective Standards-Based Instruction. It is the 7th edition. Please don't get the 6th or the 5th or the 4th or any of the other previous editions because we will be using questions and case studies right from this version. You can order this textbook from Amazon or purchase it in the Mercy bookstore. This is a breakdown of the assignments and how you'll be graded. 30% class participation, and we'll go over that in the formal learning modules in a minute. There will be an Edtpa formative assessment project, a quiz creation project for 10%, a rubric creation project for 10%, fieldwork for 20%, and a final exam for 20%. That all adds up to 100%. Sometimes you'll hear me call this course points. So if I say something is worth 1 course point, that means it's worth 1% of your grade. You can look and see what your final grading scale average will look like. So let's say you get a 92, then you would get an A minus. If you got an 81, you would get a B minus. And I do round up or down based on 1/10 of a decimal point. Let's go briefly through the assignments. You'll be getting into these more in depth, but just to give you a bit of an overview. The first is a set of learning modules, and this is your participation grade. It's worth 30 points, and it's ongoing throughout the semester. The due dates are every Sunday at midnight. You'll have a learning module, and most of the modules will be worth 2 points and 30 points for the semester. That breaks out to 15 weeks times 2 points is 30 points. The activities in the module will vary. So you might be asked to watch a video, listen to an audio lecture like this one, respond to questions, take a quiz, respond to a discussion topic, etc. And so usually there's a discussion topic and a weekly assignment. How do you know what to do? Well, specific instructions are provided in the folder for the week in a README file. And I've always put this README file at the top of the folder. And that just tells you step by step what to do for the learning module. And the nice thing about these learning modules, README files, is that there's a checklist at the end. So if you're unsure as to whether you've completed everything, just go through the checklist and make sure, yes, check, I've done that, check, I've done that. The learning modules are posted no later than Monday, and they're due the following Sunday by midnight. Now, discussion board, as I said before, won't be accepted after the due date, but the little assignments that occur in each module may be accepted up to 1 week after they are due, as with any other late assignment. Discussion boards will be graded, and here's the rubric. So you're going to be giving me 2 posts. One is called the response post, which is the answering the questions or writing about what I prompted. If you don't do that, you get obviously 0 points. If you respond somewhat to the questions superficially with little or no support, you get a 1/4 of a point, course point. But if you post thoughtfully and meaningfully, and you might support your ideas from personal experiences or textbook information, you'll be awarded 1/2 a point for that. Each week, you'll be asked to react to a post of a colleague. If it's missing, 0. If you respond in a superficial way, good job, I really like how you said this, you'll get a 1/4 of a point. But if you respond and give something additional, a question, or something that engages the colleague and advances the argument, you'll be given a 1/2 a point. So the most you can get is 1 course point for these 2 discussion board postings. A second assignment is the Edtpa Formative Assessment Project, which is due March 10th and is worth 10 points. You'll use portions of the Edtpa assessment rubrics. The actual rubrics that your Edtpa assignment that you do in student teaching will be scored by, to create a lesson plan and write a 2 to 3 page commentary about how you will assess learning during the lesson using different types of formative assessment. We're going to provide more information about this in class, And you'll be given a week off from readings to work on this because this is such an important assignment. The third assignment is a quiz creation project that's worth 10 points. The draft of it is due March 24th and the final is due April 7th. You're going to create a 10-question quiz or test that's appropriate for use in your classroom. For the unit being covered, you're going to include the standards for the unit objectives, complete solutions to the test items, and a rationale for choosing the type of items, multiple choice, true, false, etc. We're going to share these draft test items on the discussion board and get feedback. For each of these major assignments, you'll see either a grading quiz or a rubric posted in the syllabus. So you can see here's the beginning of the grading scale for the quiz creation project. There are going to be much more detail on this assignment. All the assignments, the major assignments, by the way, may be found in the assignment folder on the course materials page. In that folder, you'll find descriptions of the assignments, rubrics or grading scales, as well as a link to submit. The fourth assignment is a rubric creation project that's due the draft is due April 21st, and the final is due April 28th. So here you'll be learning to create a rubric to assess what we call a performance task. So think of, for example, asking students to design a PowerPoint. You have to have a different way to assess that, and generally we assess it using rubrics, and so it's important to learn how to design one. A fifth assignment is your fieldwork paper, sometimes called your classroom observation. It's worth 20 points or 20% of your grade, and it's based on 10 hours of work, including 3 to 4 hours of observation, and the rest of it being planning, preparation, submission of the paper. So what you're going to do is you're going to go in and observe a classroom in the school for 3 to 4 hours and write a 4 to 6 page paper summarizing your observation. Please note that if you're a practicing teacher or a teacher's aide, you have to conduct this in a classroom other than your own, and it should be in an appropriate level for your certification. So if you're going for an early childhood certification, don't go into a high school classroom setting. Please note that there's a permission to observe form signed by the interim dean on the course page and also in the assignments folder. You can print it out and give it to the teacher or administrator so that you can go in and observe. It explains the purpose of the assignment, and it's signed, as I said, by the dean. During your observation, you're going to take detailed notes, and you're going to be discussing the kinds of assessment you see occurring. So we'll go into that a little bit later in the course. This is the second part of the write-up in the syllabus, the things that you should be putting in your paper. This has to be submitted on Blackboard, but 2 fieldwork log forms must be completed on TaskStream. And here we have the grading scale. Again, this is the grading rubric for the fieldwork. A last assignment that's mandatory is the final exam, 20%. It will be online. I do provide a study guide, and that'll be due May 12th. An optional assignment is the vocabulary project. This is one that's worth up to 5 course points of extra credit, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's 5% of your grade. So for example, if you came in at an 88, which is a B+, that could bump you up into the 93 or A- range in your final grade. This is the way it works. Each week you'll be given vocabulary to learn. You'll see in the course timetable when we talk about it, there's a list of bulleted vocabulary each week. Excuse me. The vocabulary is important for 2 reasons. First of all, it helps you to learn common terms used in the field. But secondly, it familiarizes you with terms you need to know for your certification tests, especially the Edtpa. So each week you complete a vocabulary template that's found in the assignments folder. The template asks you to do several things. Define the word and use it correctly in a sentence. That's it. So if there are 5 vocabulary words and you get into the habit each week of defining them, if there's an average of 5, that's over 15 weeks. That's a lot of words, but it's only 5 words a week or so it doesn't take a lot of time. If you submit the vocabulary template by May 12th, I'll go through it and award up to 5 points of extra credit. Again, this assignment is optional, but a really good opportunity for extra credit. Let's take a look at the course calendar. The course calendar tells you each week what you should be doing. So for example, we're in week 1. The module that we're working on, Learning Module 1, is due Sunday, January 27th. It's the introduction to the course. Next week, we'll begin a new module, Learning Module 2. So by then, you should have your books and be reading Chapter 1 of Macmillan. And that is due on Sunday, February 3rd. We'll be talking about Introduction to Assessment. And these are some of the topics we'll be covering in the bulleted list there. The vocabulary that's highlighted there in the next column are things that could occur when on your certification tests and on the final exam. So it's important as you're reading to pay close attention to those words and what they mean. I put the page numbers that they occur in your text. There's also an extra credit vocabulary assignment as we have discussed using these words. Some useful websites that you could check out. And of course, our Interstate New Teacher Assessment and Support Consortium, or NTESC standards. Just like you have standards for K-12 students, professors who prepare future teachers have standards, and they're called NTESC. And these are the things that we're trying to prepare you for when you go out in the classroom. So for this week, make sure you've completed all the activities in the README file and refer to the checklist at the bottom of the file. The next thing that comes after this, I believe, is a quiz about this lecture. So you can take the quiz as many times as you want to get a perfect score, and it'll continue to help you to learn more about the course. All of the activities are due on Sunday, January 27th. Again, you can look at that double check to see if you've done everything, and this is the one from this week. Next week we'll be beginning to talk about assessment, so please read the Chapter 1 in your textbook. One of the activities, by the way, will be to email me a picture of yourself holding the 7th edition of the textbook so I can see you've got the right edition. And complete the learning module for week 2. See the README file in week 2's folder when it is posted for specifics, and that will be due February 3rd. So if you have any questions, the best way to reach me is to email me at that address or through the course message system, although I generally tend to check the mercy.edu address more frequently, so you're more likely to get a more prompt response if you use that one. And everybody have a nice week.